Buddy, this is George. Can you believe that we're in week 4 already? So I want to take a minute and take a great big deep breath, pat yourself on the back, because you know what? You've put in a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. What I really appreciate is, especially in our discussions, you're diving deep into the content. You're not just remaining at that cursory level. So I really appreciate that. The peer discussion forums have been going really well. The discussion forums where we're all jumping in are just going deep, and I hope you're finding satisfaction and meaning from the peer evaluations that you're getting, or not really evaluations, but the peer feedback that you're getting. I hope you're finding that valuable, because this is the process. Remember, I said we're going to walk along the rapid prototyping process, and so week 4 we're really going to be looking at visual design, and we're going to be looking at assessments as well. So a couple things. We're going old school today. So some people like to do a wireframe. So this is our wireframe. What a wireframe basically is you set it up as your web page, and all you have to do, just use stick figures, if you will. That's all I did back here. We're going to go over it in a second. But when you do this, you can start placing things where you want them, because we want the learner to have that intentional and consistent feel and look as they're going through your training. We don't want somebody to have to hit next all over here. Just, we want things in a place. So it's kind of, think of it like putting a light switch in a room, or a electrical socket in a room. You know where that light switch is going to be. You're going to open a door, and you're instinctively just going to feel where that light switch is, even if it's pitch black. And you always know that your light sockets or your plug-in sockets are going to be about the knee level wherever you're at. So you want that learner to have that comfortable feeling where the next buttons, or whatever interactions you have, they're going to be consistent throughout. So here's a wireframe that I just kind of threw together real quick. Do you want tabs? Where do you want the content? And also, where do you want your navigation buttons? So you just kind of draw where you want. The nice part about this is you can actually use a pencil and paper if you want, or you can use something that looks similar to an electronic storyboard, whatever you like. You can make it as simple or as complex as you want. But here's some questions that I want you to ask yourself. How will the learner interact? Because remember, no longer can we have just data dumps and call that learning. We used to be able to do that quite a bit. I imagine, has anybody not sat through a class like that where it was a data dump? Those can be very challenging in their own right. So how are you going to create that interaction? Does it build a relationship? Remember, we talked in the beginning of class on how we want to build that relationship between the learner and the curriculum. Well, the way we help build that relationship is through the navigation and the content, so the GUI, the graphical user interface. So the interface is kind of how we help to create that. And then, is it easy and intuitive? When it's easy, it means you did a lot of work. So when it's easy for the user, it means there was a lot of good thought and work behind that. Because the easier something is to work means the more thought had to go into it. Because we can just throw something together, or we can create something that's slick, something that's easy, something that's simple. That's what we want to do. Because remember, what we're doing is we're building that experience first, working our way back into those tools. So part of our experience is to make it easy for that learner. Now, the content may be difficult, but as far as their navigation and the feel when they're in that classroom, we want that simple and easy. And one of the biggest questions is, would you enjoy being there yourself? So once you're done, step back and look, would I enjoy being there? If your answer is no, then we need to kind of go back in and scrub and move things around as well. If your answer is yes, then fantastic. Have a friend look at it and see if they'd like to be there too. Make sure it's a friend that'll give you some actual feedback, rather than, we all have the friend that just loves everything we do. Well, let's get that friend that wants to give us some feedback and be maybe a little bit difficult with us. And then also the color. Remember, you're going to be looking at all sorts of stuff this week. So for our color, what message are you trying to send? Use a color wheel. That shows us contrast, that shows us all sorts of different things. It's an easy way, if you're not one of those professionals with a mixture of colors and things like that, use that color wheel. Some of our videos talk about a color wheel this week. And what I put down here last was, can I read the content? Has anybody been in one of those classes where there's been a PowerPoint or some sort of presentation up there, and it was probably like a dark blue background with a medium blue text? And you just can't tell what's going on, or the text is all over the place and you just can't see what's going on. So I think we've all been there at some point, so let's make sure we're not doing that to ourselves. And the easiest way for myself to do that is by taking a look at a color wheel, because that shows me what contrasts the best and what goes together. So there's a whole psychology behind color as well, and you know me, I love psychology. So feel free to dig into that a little bit deeper as well if you like. Now this week we're also going to look at assessment. Now I want to give everybody a quick tip about assessment. Make sure it matches our objective, but what we can also do is, as you're creating your assessment, think of it in terms of how the data can be presented from an overall standpoint of the training you're being developed, not just from the learner perspective, but what about if I want to know if my training is effective or not? How can I assess that as well? Now we're not getting into that for this go around. I think that's 577 is the course there, where we get deep into training program assessment. We're going to be assessing the learner, but I want you to kind of take a step ahead of yourself and think about how you can assess the whole training system. So what are some good measures? So if what I want to do helps alleviate a certain amount of time from a face-to-face project, guess what? Alleviating that time, that's money, that counts. That's ROI, return on investment. Now, for our purposes, we're going to look at learner assessment, and we're going to go directly into how do we know they don't know? Or how do we know they know, I guess would be a better thing to say. So we want to figure out, how do we know if they know the content? So when you're completing your assessment, make sure your assessment matches your objective. And when I say assessment, it doesn't mean that it has to be boring, multiple choice, whatever. This is e-learning. You can make it drag and drop. You can make whatever you like. You can have it embedded in video. It just depends what you want. And how do we know what we want? Well, design that experience first, and then move backwards into the assessment tool. So you know the assessment the knowledge and the objectives that they have to cover. Now let's create that experience and move backwards in the tool that helps them jump into that experience and build that relationship. Because remember, whether you're doing formative or summative evaluations, assessments, you still have that opportunity to use it as a teaching tool or a learning tool. So I look forward to seeing what everybody's coming up with, and I look forward to jumping into our discussions this week. So I hope this helped as kind of an overview, and have a great week.